And Prost, Brian.
Ja. Prost, der Martian, Humble Bundle. Leute.
Tomorrow cooperation.
Welcome, international audience. You're listening to Biertaucherpodcast, issue 226. Today we have here Horst,
Derek,
Gregor,
Dennis,
Bernd,
and Thomas.
Riesenrunde.
and we thank our sponsor.
Ja, genau. EUCodeweek.com. Ach ja.
If you're international customer looking for an internet agency in Austria, head over to wuconnect.com.
From which city are we recording?
We're recording here live from Vienna, from the best kurdish local in a restaurant in Vienna, from the Zypresse, Westbahnstraße 35a. Westbahnstraße 35. Well,
Hey, Westbahn Street.
yeah, Westbahn. Okay. Good.
West Train Street.
Yeah. This is the English issue of this podcast. Normally we speak German only, but today we have a star guest, Derek Breen, directly imported from United States, and so this issue is in English language.
Jo.
Okay. Okay.
Let's start.
Good. We begin with just that everyone says what he wants to speak about, and then we speak about it. Okay, let's just make a round. I begin. I want to report that I today was in an Austrian school in Vienna and did a 2-hour improved Scratch workshop.
Oh.
And yeah, that was it.
Oh. And I spent the day at MetaLab meeting with some really cool local people who've developed a robot for children that they're crowdsourcing on Kickstarter.
I hope you also speak about your travel to South Africa.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to speak about South Africa.
And you was doing a Scratch workshop on Sunday with Turtlestitch with Andrea Mayr.
With you?
Yeah, you could,
Yeah.
we could both talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my topics. I wanted to see a film.
You wanted to see a film.
One
This is
good
a
one,
topic in
and
itself.
it's the next step of podcasting. Not the films I saw, the films I wanted to see.
Yeah.
The one is The Martian, and the other one is The Maze. The one I suppose can be is very, very good, and the other one not so good. But I have seen the first part, so let's see. And I have bought a Humble Bundle about adventures and Nordic games. So my favorite genre of games.
I will talk a little bit about Tomorrow Corporation, and I can do it now. Look at the homepage of Tomorrow Corporation in the next day and buy it the next game. And that's all. And the second thing is Beginner's Guide. Buy it, that's all. Und für die nicht internationalen Gäste, ich war im Kino
Dennis was in the cinema.
und habe mir erst wieder da angeschaut.
But he has seen some German film.
Very exact translation. I have no specific topic.
I actually also don't have a topic, but Horst said we might want to talk a bit about 3D programming in Python.
Okay, and I can add that I bought and played today Sir, You Are Being Hunted, Humble Bundle game that you can play on Linux.
Oh.
Let's start.
So, let's start. So then make it backward. Thomas, you are noted Vienna game developer, game artist and programmer. Can you talk about how is it to program 3D games, 3D graphics with Python?
Ooh, that's a really broad question.
So just say that what you want to say.
Yeah. Well, this week I'm actually continuing. So I've in my free time I'm doing some work on a little 3D project in Python. I'm using the pyglet library for that, which allows you to basically interface with OpenGL. I'm trying to go the hard route. That means like no Unity, no.
You use no game engine. You really code
Yeah.
everything yourself.
Which is nice because then you'll also get like all kinds of weird artifacts on the screen and weird glitches that if you would just do it in Unity, it would be like probably done in 2 hours or something like that if you're used to programming Unity. But that's not the fun part of it. Yeah, so this week I started, and at the moment failed, doing collision detection. So right now you can walk around the landscape, and there's already like the floor or the terrain.
So you have a 3D area where you can go like in a...
and you can walk around. There's actually
you don't sink into the ground.
You don't sink into the ground because that's kind of easy to do. So basically you just limit the y-axis. So the axis that goes up for me is the y-axis, and you don't sink into the ground. You're just limited to that. So if you fall, there's already gravity, so you can jump, and there's gravity.
But if there's a mountain, you walk through the mountain?
No, but you can climb up the mountain as steep as it gets. So there's no limitation, and you basically are a real good mountain climber, and you climb really fast because you just walk up and it's an Austrian game, so to speak.
And is there actually a GitHub project or some?
Not yet. I plan to publish it at some point, but it's not at that stage yet. And yeah, there are also houses already, like real simple houses that look like
blocks,
basically cubes. And what's the name for the stretch? If the sides are all the same, it's a
stretched cube.
Yeah, like a rectangular.
A rectangular cube. A 3D rectangle. Yeah. So you can have cubes and 3D rectangles, and that can make up houses. But you can see them, but you can still walk through them, and that's something that I want to look at next.
So actually, you can, unlike other 3D games, you can go into the houses.
Yeah, kind of, but it's
Maybe you're a ghost.
Yeah, you can always just make the gameplay description in the way that you don't have to do anything, right? Yeah. It's a really dark room, so you don't see anything, but it's full of wonderful things. It's just very, very dark. Black screen. Done. Yeah, I guess that's it. Maybe in some future podcast when I've progressed some more, we can talk a bit more about that.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. Scratch workshop. Okay, I was doing a Scratch workshop in an Austrian school. I had an appointment to do a workshop there, and I was just checking if they have a good computer equipment, which is not given in any school. And I was very surprised. They had dual boot Ubuntu, Linux, and Windows. And on the Linux machines, the children know, they were 15 years old, they know their password, which was actually a sudo password, so I can install things. And the internet was working, and I was very impressed. I said, wow, I can do a really good workshop. And then one of the girls there asked me, can you do teacher's game programming now? And I said, yes, I have 2 hours time, you must ask your teacher. And then they said yes, and then I made a Scratch workshop because I had nothing specific prepared, and I don't wanted to improvise with the Linux. I wanted to do something simple. And I said, well, for Scratch, you don't have to boot Linux. You can stay in the Windows that most of you have booted anyway, and you just open your browser and go to the site scratch.mit.edu. And what happened? From, I think, 12 PCs, around 4 managed to do that, to go to the website. One spontaneously crashed because it was Windows. And then other children made long faces and said, yes, there is no Flash player installed. and then there was some discussion, what the browser and the internet. Yeah, and well, so I should have done the right thing and forced the whole class to boot Linux and use Firefox on the Linux. So my liberalism was hurting me.
But what was actually the need for the Flash player? Is there an online version of Scratch that runs in the Flash player?
Yes, exactly. This is the Scratch 2. This is you can play it offline. There's a version with offline, but then you need to install Adobe Air, which is even more complicated than install a Flash player. And for the usual Scratch, what you just play online on the website, you just need a Flash player installed.
So Scratch 2 is actually written in Flash ActionScript or something?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the bad point about it.
Yeah. Is there any plans of, I mean, now with mscript and stuff like that, can you actually try to get it working with just JavaScript?
I've seen somewhat working versions in HTML5 native. So I assume that's going to be the next full version release. Yeah.
And there are also similar products to Scratch, like Snap. No.
Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah.
And,
Snap from
and
Berkeley.
others who run in HTML5.
And Scratch is the one with the cat, right?
Yeah.
Yes, with the cat.
So the previous Scratch 1 was a native application, or was it?
Yeah, Scratch 1.4 was created in Smalltalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Scratch 1 you can easily download.
Yeah.
So if you have to give an offline workshop.
Are there any feature differences between 2 and 1, or would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Yeah, there's some pretty big differences. I mean, what's interesting is Scratch 1.4 is has a resurgence because it's installed on Raspberry Pi. So if people buy Pi, then they're using the earlier version of Scratch. Scratch 2.0 is far superior for game development because in the previous version, you can't have cloning or instances. So you have to have individual sprites for every single object in the game, which is a real drag for...
So you can't do like a particle system easily.
No, it would be incredibly time-consuming to do that. And also, you can't do custom blocks. You can't do procedures in the old version. So, and my favorite feature in the new version, and part of why they originally went with Flash, is a vector graphics engine. So being able to create vector graphics within Scratch is a pretty big deal, for animation in particular. Yeah.
Also, the nice thing if you use the web version of Scratch 2 is that they continually evolve. So today I discovered a new feature I was not seeing before. It was cloud storage variables. So you can store a variable in a cloud on a server.
Yeah, that's the other thing. With the web version, can you actually save your project and load it and share it?
Yeah.
Do you have
This is
to
inbuilt. It's inbuilt.
Do you have to log in, or can you save to the local hard drive?
You can save to the local hard drive without logging in. Yeah.
Is there also like a community thing, or where you can share it somewhere? And
Yeah, I mean, really, I think the most powerful feature in the online version of Scratch is the remix button. So you click one button and you have full access to all the code and can make any changes and share it back
republish
out.
your changes. then.
Yeah, and it's been translated into over 40 languages. So now people can natively code in their own language for the first time, which is pretty huge when you think about it. Software for kids. But until now, all programming languages, for the most part, have been in English. And there's finally a language that allows people that aren't native English speakers to express themselves digitally.
So that means that the keywords are actually translated.
Yeah, so all the blocks get translated into the native language and all the entire interface. Yeah.
So if I load an English, if I'm German speaking and load the English program, I actually get the keywords translated to German.
Yeah.
So you don't save the localized thing, but you just have like a symbol or a keyword for that,
Right.
and I just see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like Visual Basic for applications in the 90s where you can program in German with German words, but it's not possible to run the scripts on an English version.
Right, exactly.
really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. To conclude it, I made a zombie shooter game, something that is very fun to do in our official school, because I know as an official state paid teacher, I would maybe get into troubles. And the kids were really excited. For 15-year-olds, they were very brave. I had 2 hours time. They made no break. Nobody was going to the toilet. And the kids were even disciplining themselves. So if I always asked it dramatically, oh, how much time have I have left? Can we make hit points for the zombies? Ah, yes, we have 20 minutes left. I can show you this feature also. So I was trying to show a bit off and grab a lot of coding inside it. And the kid said, really, so if one kid asked too many questions or made too much fun, the other kid said, no, be quiet. We want more code. We want to use this man. Teach us more. And then there was, at the end, of course, the teacher was also impressed, which was my goal. And then the teacher said, and this nice mister now have done you this workshop, and now he want a feedback. I never say that, yes. And could you say what you think about it? And nobody was responding because every child was busy shooting zombies with the game. And that was for me the best feedback ever. So it was very nice.
Did you 2 questions? One is, did the game actually have artwork? And if yes, where did you get that, or did you create it in the workshop?
Yes, I don't wanted to use so Scratch has a little library of inbuilt artwork that you can use, and you can import games, or there's even a feature that you can use a camera, and there's a pixel paint and a vector paint program inside. And because my time was limited and the children were 15 years old, so I wanted to focus on programming and not on drawing, I by design choose to make very simple graphics with a vector graphic program, because usually as soon as you show the children the inbuilt library of pictures, they are very busy choosing the most colorful butterfly, and then the Windows-based Flash players crash even more because the computer overload with moving large pixel areas around. So I just wanted simple graphics, and they were still good looking. So.
Okay.
Did you upload the game so we could play it when
I think it should be uploaded. I'm not sure if I shared it, but I shared a similar one in summer. So, but you just look in Scratch on the Horstians or zombie games, but it's basically
and you find
maybe it's a bit hard actually to find something in Scratch, but I will put some tutorial on my homepage. It's made with just 3 sprites, so it's very cool. 3 sprites and cloning, of course.
If anybody runs into that problem where they're teaching Scratch at a school where they don't want violent video games, there's a very easy solution we use at MIT. Call it Paintball, so that you're shooting paint instead of other things. And then zombies really hate red paint, so if you use red paint, it's just like killing a zombie. And it looks good against the green too.
I must also say I was very impressed with the students, because without prompting, one student asked, could I change the graphics with pictures of kids in the school and teachers? This was unspoken. And I said, yes, you can, but don't put my name on it. Well, also, so the conclusio is, well, if you you can hire me, or you can, if you want, go yourself in a school and make a Scratch workshop. If they have good computers, it's very fun to do. But if there's a chance, use Linux. Don't use Windows to make it easy, because it will hurt you back. So the Windows will that you allow them to use Windows will hurt you while teaching. So it will cost you valuable time, where some whining kid will have to reboot
or maybe go for Scratch 1, or is that not recommended?
Scratch 1 has not the clone-to-clone collision detection and some other things like Derek said. So you can do things with Scratch 1, but if you are used to Scratch 2, it's very better. So you have more options, especially for games.
And Scratch 1 isn't online, so it would have to be downloaded and installed, which is hard to do at schools. As a guest, I mean.
I wonder if it would be possible to get the whole Smalltalk engine of Scratch 1 to run on the scripting in the browser, maybe? Maybe not that efficient, but like as a first.
Well, that Snap is sort of like that. So some of the original developers of Scratch created a version for college at Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley, and it's gotten pretty robust. You can do quite a bit with it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm finished so far with.
So do you know any future plans where the development of Scratch is heading?
Yeah, Horst and I met at a conference in Amsterdam in August, the Scratch conference, and we saw a demo of, it's called GP, so it's in a pre-alpha release right now, but GP for general purpose, and it's a block-based programming environment, and they've gone back to Smalltalk. So the entire thing is created in Smalltalk, but very powerful. And it allows kind of every level of programming, so being able to do full-blown app development for desktop and portable. So it's got a lot of potential.
And what we have seen, the very cool thing is you can program that like a child with puzzling blocks together, logic blocks, or you have a slider and then you have text-based programming interface like you usually did as a professional, and with a slider you can just return.
And does it work in both ways? Can I write a text program and then
you can go
turn
back
that into
it seamlessly.
And I think this is for teaching a huge
work?
thing. We don't
Probably,
know.
or most of the time it should.
Yeah, they're pretty smart guys. One of the developers is in Germany, and one is in Japan, I think. So it's sort of an international team. And they're still a few years away from it being ready for a wide release, but it's pretty robust for an alpha.
So it's probably going to be the Scratch of the future,
Yep.
or from today's perspective.
And they think it'll be the Scratch and the Python of the future. It'll be that fusion, which is pretty exciting.
And they definitely said Python was one of their Vorbilder, something they liked.
Free pictures.
German word alert. Some of their ideals, idols, yes. And they say they want to make a general purpose programming language that has the advantage of Scratch, so easy to teach, easy to use, but is not limited like Scratch, because with Scratch you basically can just make games or animations or something that run in the browser, and they want that you can open files, that you can read files, that you can access the internet, that you can do your day-to-day stuff that you want to do with computer codes. And,
but I guess it's hard to like cater to all the audiences, because Scratch is very good at being simple and easy to teach, but on the other hand, other languages like Python are easy to like do other things. I mean, it's still easy to teach, but not as easy as Scratch. On the other hand, Scratch is not as easy to open files with and like do general processing. So
it will be a blend.
Yeah. So when you said that the Smalltalk-based Scratch 1 had problems with rendering vector graphics, is that fixed in GP?
I don't think they may not have plans for a vector editing environment. That hasn't been a priority. So in Snap, the Snap software doesn't have vector. It supports vector graphics, so you can import
SVG?
SWF. I'm sorry, SVG. And
the Snap graphic editor is pixel-based?
yes.
Okay.
You can only edit pixel graphics bitmap.
But I guess if it's going to be a general purpose language, then there will be some connectivities and bindings to other languages, so you can use.
And I suspect, I would say there's a good chance, because I suspect there are some libraries for doing vector graphics. So,
Derek, you remember, will the Scratch 2 successor, the G+, will it be open source?
I don't know. But I know that the developers are definitely pro open source, so I think there's a really good chance. And I think they're doing it independent of any institution, which bodes well for open source.
Okay.
But in all likelihood, there will be a Scratch 3.0 before GP. I really think within the next 2 years there'll be a full Scratch release, and that's likely to be HTML5 based, so that it can run on tablets and not have any of the compatibility issues.
And run on Windows then, stable.
No comment.
At least it reduces the problem of not being able to run on the Raspberry Pi, stuff like that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, for a Raspberry Pi, you might want to have some native stuff anyway, or like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anybody picks up. I think Scratch 1.4 it's either open source or being open sourced, which means it would be easy for someone to develop a sort of 1.7 release or something, like adding cloning. That's the killer feature I think that's missing for game development.
I guess at that point it will just be a marketing issue, like telling people go for 1.7 because it's better than 2.0 or it has some advantages.
Maybe we need a new name.
Scratch Pi or something like Raspberry Scratch.
Well,
Itchy and scratchy.
Scratch and Sniff. There's actually someone's created Sniff as an enhancement for Scratch, which is pretty funny.
Well, I wanted to move Derek to the end of the podcast, because I fear that the others will not have time to speak. But it now makes sense if he speak about his Scratch workshop.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Sure, go for it. Sure.
Okay, Derek, can you explain what you did in Vienna, what you did before you was in Vienna, and what you did at Sunday?
Yeah, so I just spent last week in South Africa teaching Scratch workshops for students and for teachers as part of the first annual Africa Codeweek. So a continent-wide initiative to try to introduce coding to kids And I can't remember I think it's 17 countries this year. It was 17 to 20 countries in Africa.
This is called Codeweek Africa? Or?
Africa Codeweek.
Africa Codeweek.
Yeah, so for the past 3 years, Europe Codeweek has been a special initiative in October to get code introduced into schools. And so they decided, hey, if it works in Europe, we should try it in Africa. And they got a bunch of volunteers from all over the world, many of them employees of SAP, the big multinational software company. So they became a sponsor. What's interesting is rather than just giving money, they actually recruited volunteers from all over I can't remember how many countries they're in, but it meant that there were all of these English and French and German people speaking all different languages coming to Africa that could work in communities where those languages were helpful. And so I'd never quite heard of anything like that continent-wide before. And they even built some buses to go to more remote areas with sort of these remote computer labs. But I spent all of my time in Cape Town, which meant it was quite easy since English is the national language there. But I was able to do a lot of work with students around enabling them to explore Scratch on their own. So rather than being the token American white guy that comes in and says, you should do this, it's really important, you'll make money, get out of poverty. It was really more about going and empowering them to express themselves with the technology. So really just sort of inviting them into the world of Scratch and giving them the space to mess around with it a little bit. And then with the teachers, it was about encouraging them to just be open to students trying out Scratch, using it for projects. So bringing it into the schools and really reassuring the teachers that in the US, very few teachers are experts in any of these technologies, but having just enough comfort to be able to allow space for them to be used by kids. So this idea of you don't have to be an expert to teach something in the 21st century, you just have to kind of be aware of it. And then after Africa, I came back here for Europe Codeweek. So that just began on Saturday. And Sunday, Horst and I were part of a big workshop, big, 30 people. It felt big, where we combined...
It was in Vienna.
Yeah, here in Vienna.
The
So
art university.
yeah, combining Scratch and robotics, and also this new technology a friend of ours has developed called Turtlestitch that enables kids to design with blocks in the way that they do in Scratch, make complicated graphics, but then transfer those graphics to an embroidery machine and sew their own t-shirts or bags or sew patterns on fabric. So it was pretty cool, and to see the balance between, we were really showing all these different ways to use block-based programming and technology and demystifying coding.
You can see the pictures of it on the internationalopenmagazine.org. We'll upload it here together with the podcast. There's really one picture, I made it, I'm very proud of it, where you see Andrea Mayr, the head of Turtlestitch project, explaining on a laptop some patterns, I think it was, that there's a logo graphics that were stitched with the stitching machines on textile. And a lot of girls and women crowding behind them, and everyone has a smile on the face, because they were, I think in their head, this was something like, if we guys see a new computer game or something. So it was they were figuring, that could be on my clothing.
Yeah.
So it's really a good technique to get people who are not primary coders into coding and show the beauty of code.
Well, and even girlfriends and partners of hardcore coders are finally lured into the coding world.
It's monochrome or it's in color? More than one color?
Well, that's the fun thing. This is a logo-like graphic, so the computer actually at Turtlestitch allow only one color. But if you take the time, you can make two graphics, and between printing them two, you can change the color of the stitching machine. Yeah. So you can, or you can make a thread, as a string, with who is built itself out of two different colored strings. So It's like a bit like 3D printing, just in 2 dimensions. So if you tinker with the machine and the material that you're printing with, you can add color effects.
But it's easier than 3D printing because you can't print a ball with a green core.
Well, it's 2-dimensional, so you can't
Yes,
print a
you
ball at all.
it's impossible to print in your ball the green core, and it's impossible to print the green core and around of this the other material because you can't position it in the air.
I think it only does planar. You have a planar.
Yeah.
The stitching machine from Turtlestitch only can make 2 dimensions.
Yes.
Yes. You're speaking now about 3D
Yes,
printing.
this is it's better in stitching.
Yeah, you can, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's far less problematic
Yeah.
because you're not melting material, and but it also has, I think, more instant gratification. Like I did a T-shirt, and everywhere I go, people are sort of dazzled, and it was one piece of thread, but with 7 different shades between green and yellow, so it actually looks like several different threads. Please, everyone should be trying this.
So, if you didn't hear, for the listener, we are now seeing some really good food-based. Which country is that?
This is Kurdish food, and this is a warm pre-dinner meal, so a warm starter. Yes, with lentil and warm melanzani.
So for the most authentic podcast experience, you're going to pause the podcast now, make yourself something to eat, and then you resume the listening when we return as well.
You also have to drink half a beer because every one of us has now exactly drunk 1/4 liter of beer.
Yeah.
So, except Thomas.
We're sorry that we don't have scratch and sniff technology for Open Magazine yet. But
Not yet.
not
yet,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to ask you about your journeys, Derek.
Yeah,
I was at work and I think Horst sent me an email with a YouTube video, and it was, wow, yeah, my food comes, wow, beautiful, thank you. Prost ruhig.
Kann ich. Bier.
Okay. No, I thought it. Okay, but now, Derek, I think it was in Brussels, and there was a bunch of people. I think
at the EU. Yeah.
The first video was a bunch of people in front of the European Parliament or so.
Yeah.
And there was a dance involved in the Parliament.
Yes.
Also, what was this about?
So I was at the EU almost by accident. I drove a friend there who's a CodeWeek ambassador for the Netherlands. And it turned out that I ended up being invited in, and before I knew it, I had become the first ambassador for the US because they'd been wanting to get somebody to come and hadn't been able to get an American to come all the way to Brussels. So there I was in a t-shirt, a CodeWeek, EU CodeWeek t-shirt, and all of a sudden they're teaching us how to dance. And I have no idea what's happening, but somebody came up with this idea for having a theme song, which is called Ode to Code. And then they would teach children this robotic dance all over Europe. And they would do this dance, but then they would remix it or modify it in a way, just like they would with the Scratch project, to make it more the flavor of their country. So we did it initially to show the playful side of all these ambassadors who are just volunteers at the EU. And then because I thought it was a pretty fun idea, I did a version in Africa with the African children last week, and was inspired by an Italian version that I'd seen where they started off doing it the correct way, and then they're like, no, we gotta do it like this. And they kind of spiced up the music, and I thought, we'll do it in Africa with beatboxing and children singing, and it turned out pretty cool. So if people want, they can do a search on YouTube for Africa Codeweek Ode to Code, or Ode to Code African Style.
Yeah, cool. We will
And there will be a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The show notes can be found at internationalopenmagazine.org.
Yeah. And if you really want to see something strange, because that's not strange enough, there's also video of me breakdancing in Africa during a coding workshop to honor the sort of bravery of the kids that were willing to get up on stage and beatbox and sing. And so I thought I would do something that would be equally risky, or not risque, that would be different. But so I tapped back into my 80s era refrigerator box dancing, gave it a try, and got a standing ovation from some African kids.
That is called really crazy, or what is that loud?
Yeah, well, what's great is if you're bald and 45 and from America, it's better if you do it badly. That's what I learned. Do it badly and it's far more entertaining, as if I had a choice.
Yes, it's a recommendation. It was really fun to watch in my work just before I started really to work. It was a good start into my working day.
So will these kids, after the code week ended, will they have machines where they can actually continue developing, or?
Yeah, the schools that I went to had computer labs, and the headquarters for this was at a science museum in Cape Town, which has a dedicated computer lab. I was so moved and inspired that I'm going back for 3 months. So I agreed to go back in December and stay and work on follow through, not just for Cape Town, but for all of Africa, figuring out if we do it again next year, how do we make it something that isn't just for a week and isn't just about volunteers coming in, but really getting mentors and teachers trained to be able to continue beyond that week.
Because I think if it's just 1 week, it's nice and exciting. But if it just happens once a year, then you might not get up to speed that fast. For those kids that are really interested, I guess not everybody has to be interested, and not everybody will stick to that. But at least a small percentage, and then they should have the ability to access those machines and the language and the setup.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's fun is to see I know some of them are continuing because they're uploading and sharing their projects on the Scratch website. And so it's a way that even for the volunteers that left, they can still have some contact with kids and teachers that they worked with, which really wouldn't have been possible almost at any other time until tools like Scratch that allow online collaboration came out. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
You need okay.
So now it's the dinner break. We will see you after the break.
Yeah. Well, Master, you make beatboxing during this time, Horst. Oh, I was saying Horst.
My understanding is it's the best-selling computer of all time, because that one model was on sale for years and years and years. How about you? Which first game?
My first game was Tetris on the Game Boy.
Oh, classic.
I'm a little bit younger than you, and so 1990 I get a Game Boy, and with Tetris, my brother a Game Boy with Super Mario Land. And yes, and my first PC game should be I don't know, I think Solitaire. Yes, it must be Solitaire. And Windows 3.11. Yeah.
But I had a console before the C64. You could plug it onto the TV.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you choose the game by switching.
Some switch.
And there was the famous game, the Pong,
Yeah.
and I don't remember. I think there was 3 or 4 games on it.
Yeah.
But
They were all variations of Pong, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd call it tennis because it would be
yeah, that's right.
and hockey. There'd be 2 things, too. Yeah, I had that too. Yeah. ColecoVision in the US. Yeah. And sometimes it had a gun. You'd shoot a little dot on the television.
Yeah.
How about you, Horst?
Yeah, what's it?
I not remember exactly, but I know that I was a gamer long before I had a computer, and I also know that I could program BASIC before I had a computer, because I was gifted, as I was 13 or 12, I was gifted a BASIC book. And I read it I really know it by heart, and I could write code. I remember I actually wrote code, basic code, with pen on paper, just because I was so excited. Yeah, but I think one of my first games was a Saxon for the Commodore 64, which was actually 3D kind of.
So fake 3D.
And I loved it because I was in the Luna Park of Vienna, in the Prater. There was a card machines where you put in coins to play that, and then I said, wow, I will save so much money because I can that now play at home. And I remember we tried to copy the audio tapes with this. We tried to copy it on a stereo thing, and it was not working. And then with a pen we had these audio tapes somehow messing around with the tapes and cutting it and fixing it.
Did you actually figure out why copying those cassettes didn't work?
We were children, so
but you didn't have any.
I copied a lot of games later, but not so much on tape, because then I saved for a floppy disk.
So you never figured out. That's something that you should figure out for next podcast. How to copy old games with music cassettes on a stereo.
Yeah, it should have worked, but it did not work. So, but we were young. So.
Could be possible that it's mono.
Yeah, but this is one problem. So the first attempts I tried to get game music from the C64. It was just a half success because I had the music only on my left ear. And I had to unplug, so yeah.
But that's game music, right? You actually tried to copy the data?
We wanted to copy the Saxon game, yes. We had it on one tape that was working, and we want to multiply it. So we had a lot of criminal energy with 12-year-olds.
I never bought a game. For C64, I think we all copied it.
I could already. There was not even shops.
Yeah, and I remember there was a shop where you could buy C64 games, but only very few, and this was called Niedermeyer. It was I think it's not around anymore, but it was only two.
For the listeners, we are all male, we are all in our 30s or 40s, and we all have 20s. Only Thomas, he's 18 years old, and we all now have a look with glossy eyes, like we think about lost girlfriends.
So if you're in your 20s, can we say you came post-graphical interface, post-mouse? Like, were you born after 1984?
Yes. So my first my first computer game experience was, I guess, the NES. There was this prepackaged game where you had Super Mario Bros. 1, Tetris, and Nintendo World Cup. I think 92 or so, or it was based on the World Cup of 92. So I think Cameroon was the worst one, and I'm not sure which. So basically, the teams were ranked based on how they fared in the actual World Cup.
Yeah.
Those games were pretty fun, and then my computer experience started with a 486 that already had a mouse. It already had a Sound Blaster 16, and a CD drive, a double-speed CD drive, which was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got started.
Well, to move back from memory lane to present, I can present time. I can report that I today buy the Humble Bundle with Bitcoins, because Bitcoins is not real money. I can spend that all on on Humble Bundles. It's actually one of the few things I use the Bitcoins for. And yes, there was a Humble Bundle, and included was, "Sir, you are being hunted."
Yes.
And this is a Tweedpunk game, because you play in a British island, procedurally generated, so randomly generated British island, where you somehow, by a time machine or some kind of steampunk device, you are teleported there with very minimal equipment, and then you are hunted by British upper-class robots who make a sport of hunting humans. And this is very cool. And this is a ego shooter sneak around game like Thief. So,
Thank you.
Nicht die Nerven.
Ja, okay. Herrlich. Dankeschön.
Bitte. Ich bitte darum.
And well, it's the game.
Ja.
Vielleicht beschreibt der Gregor die Situation.
Ja, genau. Es werden die leeren Teller abserviert. Die sind alle leer und es hat allen geschmeckt, so was ich mitbekommen habe.
Well, to Sir, you're being hunted. The game is centered around the theme that you start with luck. So you lack equipment, you lack safety, you lack everything. So you get a very paranoid feeling. You must play it with headphones because you have to listen very carefully, and you have to sneak around. You always hide like a little insect in the darkness, in dark corners and roots. And then you fear the robots, and you have, even if you start with a gun, you have very limited ammunition. And then you have to loot buildings, and the buildings are far less than the game of Thomas, because there's just blocks, but you cannot walk into the blocks. You just can touch with a hand, you can touch the door of the building, and then you get a loot inventory screen where you can loot more or less useful items. And as far as I understood it, while you're looting and inspecting in the inventory screen the items, the game goes on. So you can actually be shot. I was not sure if maybe
is it an online multiplayer game, or do you just play it locally against bots?
I played single player, but there was a multiplayer option in the menu, but I did not figure out how.
So in the single player game, you can actually get, I don't know, hit or shot by computer bots while you're looting a building.
Yes, well, I did not experience that. I was not being shot while looting, but I noticed that the shadows moved because the sun and night and day cycle, and I had the impression that the game does not pause while I'm inspecting the inventory. But for me, it's not fun. I want to have my time to inspect each thing. Yeah. Well, but the other thing was I want to go inside a house. And then see the inside of the house. I don't want to stay outside the house and have a 3 meter long arm and loot inside the building. It makes no sense. Yes. So yeah, well, but you can sneak. You can actually crouch. Then you feel like an insect. So you have a very low point of view, and you have a visibility radar-like interface.
Yeah, like a meter. That's
you're
hidden or not.
Yeah, and you see how much hidden you are. So if you're really hidden, the robots can go very close to you, and you hear them very, very cool. They make so electronic noises. They say, "Hello, is there someone? Let's go on down. It's maybe dangerous." So they are like a mixture of British upper class hunting society and R2D2 from Star Wars. It's cool. Yeah, and you must gather artifacts to build your teleporter to go back to your real human world. And you can, as far as I understood, you can choose to battle it out with the robots, and then hunt for loot them for more weapons and so, or you can just sneak around or just try to. The robots are noise sensitive, so you can try to make a distraction for them, so they heat toward the noise, and then you can try to clean passages where the robots normally patrol. So you can try to manipulate them. But it's a very claustrophobic, paranoid feeling.
Survivor, stealth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it's nice scenario.
And this was the only game in the Humber Bundle?
No, there were a lot of games, but this was the only one I actually tested.
I also thought about it because I like the title so much. Yeah, I even looked at what it would
nice,
sound like
nice
in French. Yeah. This vous êtes chassé, monsieur.
Baguette.
Je ne parle pas français.
Gregor, you had a very fascinating topic. You wanted to go in that cinema.
Yes. I can talk a little bit about it. There's a movie in the cinemas called The Martian with Matt Damon in the main role part, and Jeff Daniels, I think, is also with it. And I was very interested in this film because there was a book that is very successful, and I heard in many podcasts about it, and we are all very enthusiastic about it. And this morning I heard an interview with Matt Damon, and he said this film is like a love letter to science and engineering, and so I'm into it. I have to watch it. And the story, plain and simple, Matt Damon plays an astronaut who is forgotten on Mars on a mission, and then he has to survive on Mars for a period of time until the rescue mission.
So it's like Kevin allein zu Hause.
It's a mixture of Kevin allein zu Hause or Robinson Crusoe on Mars, which is also an older film.
Didn't you also play in the movie that came out like 1 or 2 years ago?
Yeah, he played in this Interstellar.
Interstellar, yeah. But it does not have any relation to that.
Well, nearly the same. There he's also lost on a planet.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
from
the characters or from the story, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, I think it's more like Castaway, the Tom Hanks film, like being stuck on a desert island kind of thing, except with no food. And no oxygen.
No packages and no Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. No volleyball on Mars.
You saw the first part of the film?
Well, I saw the first part, but I couldn't understand hardly any of it because I don't speak German, which by the way, is why this podcast episode is in English for the one American at the table who's totally ignorant. But I thought, well, I've been spending time in Munich and Vienna. Maybe it would be great to go and see a movie in German, and I thought, well, if it's an action movie, then no big deal. Like I'll be able to follow. And the first act, maybe the first 15-20 minutes, I could follow pretty well. But at a certain point, it just becomes like Matt Damon doing his video diary for the day, and then Jeff Daniels at a press conference, and so I just at a certain point it just became silly. Like I took off the 3D glasses and went out and thought it was worth paying the money for the experience. But the film it's so beautifully shot. It's very realistic, and so I really do want to see it in English. And I miss Matt Damon's voice. I kind of thought maybe he would dub it in German because he speaks German in the Bourne movies, and I thought, oh well, he could do it, right? He's Matt Damon, but it's clearly not Matt Damon.
I guess once the actors get like their assigned dubbing actor, then they stay the same. Except for, I guess,
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I think it's like when they're not famous yet. So for some actors, if you watch the really early movies of them, they might get some random dubber assigned or voice actor assigned. But once so for example, Bruce Willis always has the same voice actor, so you get kind of used to the voice of the German voice of Bruce Willis.
Except the Stirb langsam 3, Die Hard 3, the voice actor was ill.
Okay, so it switched.
Yeah, sometimes
that film didn't work.
I think it happens for I think it happened for the voice actor of Marge Simpson that she died, and it happens for some others as well. So the voice actor or the dubber dies before the real actor, so they have to exchange it for some other actor. So that also happens. Also, it's interesting for some movies and TV series, the dubbing actually doesn't really follow the real script. And sometimes that makes things better. So there's, for example, some UK or US TV series that weren't that successful in the original country with the original voice, but due to the kind of not really close to original voice acting and just putting in some additional...
Yes, so you can find it on Wikipedia. There was a certain team in Germany that made the dubbing for the Bud Spencer movies, for example. But a good example is also there was a TV series with Tony Curtis and Roger Moore. The two.
It's in German. It's
There
the
are
Zwei,
many
it's
more jokes than in the original.
the Persuaders. It's called the Persuaders.
Persuaders is the original title.
And in German it's die Zwei. And like if you watch so I have the DVD box, and if you watch the English one, it's kind of fun, but in German it's just really overdone, and to the way that sometimes the lips don't move, because in the original they didn't say anything, but in German it just overdubbed 2 or 3 jokes into the whole story.
Wow, that's incredible.
And Käfig voller Helden, that's an example. There are jokes without any connection to relation to the English version. So it's totally different text they speak.
Has anyone seen the unauthorized Phantom Menace fan edit where they dub Jar Jar Binks into this nonsensical alien language just so they can use subtitles to add some meaning to that character? It's hilarious, and he doesn't sound Jamaican in the Phantom Menace one. Well, one thing I thought in the Martian, I actually thought that Jeff Daniels' voice was so good that maybe he should dub Jeff Daniels in English, because Jeff Daniels can be a little annoying in certain roles, like.
The thing that you mentioned, that they had to change Jar Jar Binks' voice to actually subtitle him. You know of the meme with the Downfall movie?
No.
Well, like Hitler finds out something. So there's this movie Downfall where.
Oh right, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and like they subtitle different things into that. It's actually if you're native German speaking, it's really hard. You have to turn off your voice because you listen to the actual text. And you don't really you can't concentrate on the subtitles.
It was a really popular meme,
It's
I remember.
There are some fan-made dubs like Lord of the Weed and Star Trek Enterprise Perkening.
Perkening is a wohl Film.
Okay, that's another movie. I don't remember the name of the.
There are Viennese dubbings of, I think, Alf.
Okay.
And McGyver, which really.
Yeah, which brings me back to the Martian. I think for me it makes it interesting the MacGyver thingy in it. So that he has to deal with a short amount of water and have to be inventive and so on. So and it's made by Ridley Scott. So I have to say more.
Yeah. And it's also a bit like Apollo 13, where they're having to come up with all these innovations.
So
I remember MacGyver will be verfilmed as not. It should be a new series.
A new
series.
No, do it.
Yes, with McDamon on Mars. No.
McDamon.
MacGyver.
It's not related, but I want to tell a little. Well, it's not very funny. Yes, a fun, pseudo-funny story. I was witness at the election in Vienna. So you can actually go to a party and say you want to witness the election, and then you sit on this long table and the people come and you look very official. They all think you're now in the city government and salute you, and so it's very cool for to improve the social status. And you think, okay, it's paper. We have no voting machines here in Vienna. This is all traditional, done like 100 years before. And you put so you go in the cabin in the where you're not seen, yes, and then you put your vote. Actually, two papers to fill out, district vote and city vote,
Yes.
and then you put the papers in the box. It's not so complicated. Yes? And because I live normally in a bubble with people where I think they all can read and write, and so I was not aware that how many different people exist. There were actual people who did not understand the voting process. Yes, and Vienna, some were first-time voters, can also be immigrants who are first time to allow to vote. But one was actually going out of the cabin, yes, and said, "Do I have to also fill the name? You can write the name of a preferred candidate." And they said, "No, just make the cross." And, so, and then there was one woman, an educated woman, white, so middle age, and she got in, yes. And there were a lot of people, and she really managed to spoil 2 box of votings, also these boxes, these containers where the voters are done, because she got to the one table where, so the tables are organized where in which zone of Vienna you live. Yes, so she showed her identity card, she got her voting papers, she got in the cabin, filled her vote, but then there was too much people going up at the table where she was come from, so she simply go to the another table. But this another table is for people from another district, so to speak. Yes, from another group of houses. Yes, and she put her vote inside this other box. Yes, and then we were all a bit too slow to react, and then we said, "Hey, lady, you come from this table and put your vote in our box." And she said, "Yes, I think this is so organized. I go in at one side and go out at the other side." So she was from some middle management, yeah. And this was not the case, but in fact she ruined both boxes with votes, because now the one box had 1 vote too less, and another box had 1 vote too much. And in the end, it does not change who is governing the city. Yes, but still, it's
the stats, the per district.
Yes,
stats
she really managed to damage the democratic process She made the maximum damage with the minimum effort.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
because
and you can do nothing about it, huh?
But what can you do? All the people.
Also, you shouldn't be able to do anything.
Whatever you do will be very
but
worse.
you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
So what really happened was that we all were very shocked. Yes, and then the city government paid. Heat administrator of this table wrote down the incidents. He said so he must write a protocol, and he wrote down, yes, 1 vote cast files. And I was not there at the counting of the votes. But what can you do? You cannot ask the lady in public, what do you voted? I mean, that makes the point.
But I guess, how many votes are in one of these boxes then?
There are around 1,000 votes in one box.
Yeah, so it doesn't count that much if 1 vote gets.
Yeah, of course not. But
and I guess these incidents happen like once per.
That's the one you caught.
But I was thinking voting is so simple, you cannot ruin that, but you can actually without purpose.
It just messes up the per district stats. It doesn't really mess up the whole outcome.
Well, in this case, not because both tables were on the same district, so they had the different set of they had the same set of candidates. So, but what really happened? So the one you could not ask her what you voted, because that could be manipulated, and you could not open the box and try to grab the uppermost thing.
The thing is, there's you just vote for the party, right? Which is the same for all of Vienna, but then you can also
vote for the candidates.
Preferred candidates in. So
2 lists.
Do you actually get a different voting sheet for different districts with different candidate names, or do you put the candidates' names in?
Yes, this can happen. You have different sheets for different districts, but both tables were luckily in the same district. It was just
so
different zones.
It didn't matter at all. It didn't even mess up the district stats.
It did not. Well, it depends how the voting was then at the end. How the counting was done. Yes, but the correct thing, because for official result of the vote, you must say this block of houses, this sub-district had exactly this result, and she messed up.
So the boxes are not just divided by district, but also by
Yeah, it's called Sprengel. It's like 5 houses, 1,000 people around. Yes. And then she managed to mess up 2 Sprengel results. Yes. And another lady. So this was the worst case, and it was not intentional. But we have found no solution how to resolve that. And then
it's good that you didn't find a solution.
But what you want to do. And another thing was one lady was correctly getting her identity card, putting her vote, and then she was putting her voting papers inside the box. Yes, and we all were satisfied. And then she held up the envelope, where usually you put the papers in an envelope so that nobody can see it, and put the envelope in the box. And she said, "What do I have to do with the envelope?" And we all were face palming. So, and then she joked, "Ha ha ha! Now you know what I voted for."
So was it work?
but there the problem was less dramatic, because if you count the votes, you make a big heap of all the envelopes, and then you open all the envelopes and make a big heap of the papers.
Difference because
yes, if she was not the only one who did it, but you could,
But it's possible to say she voted for Green because every of these, not for FPÖ,
for the right-wing
because every FPÖ voter had forgotten to put it in the envelope.
No, I have no insight in
There's
that.
no certain protocol for this kind of accident.
No, but what I want to say is it is important that you register as witness for voting. It costs you nothing. You just have to go to one political party and say you want to go witness, and they have to give you a paper that you are official witness. Because if only people from a certain political direction are heading this voting committee, they can then resolve such incidents like they wish. And especially if you from a small party,
from
as much people as possible. And voting is a democratic process. You get democratic people from all kind of intelligence, from all kind of background.
But isn't it like that in the committee there's always at least one from every party?
No, that is not the case.
Not the case in
That
Vienna.
is ideally the case, but especially the smaller parties have not the manpower to have witnesses for each voting district office. So it's especially if you sympathize with a smaller party, it's important that you say yourself you want to be witness. Yeah, just I was not aware that so much can go wrong by voting, but it can.
So you, the other people know you are a voter of this party because you want to witness?
Actually not, because only the people at the table, also the other witnesses, know, because of course we say I'm here from this and this party, but even the only people who really knows it is the head of the voting table. So because he has to control that you have an official document that the party sent you, and he's not forced to disclose the origin of your party to the others, and even that does not mean that you vote this party.
So you could still go to a different party and ask for a seat there.
Even you could make mischief and go to the party you dislike most, register as a witness for them, and then make witness in your.
Is it actually public who was witness for which party?
There should exist lists for that. Yes, I'm not sure if the.
So we can look you up somewhere in the voting results.
Maybe yes.
So it's possible to view the vote counting.
Yes, I made that several times. It's not difficult. Actually helped with that.
Okay. Also, if you are not part of a party?
Yeah, I'm not part of any party.
Okay.
Yes, I just the only thing is if you want to be official witness, sit on this table and help at the counting. Yes, you must be accepted by at least one party. So you go to one party of your preference, or any party who seeks a member, and you get an Wahleintrittschein, a paper document that say we want this man with this name, or these people with this name to be witness for us at this party.
Okay.
That's the only restriction, but it's a thing of 5 minutes. It costs you one telephone call and they send you the papers.
You weren't a witness of a party. You was a witness.
I was witness for the Green Party.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was.
But I mean, it's possible to be a witness without a party.
Well, one of the party has to accept you. Has to give you the document that you are an official witness.
Ah, okay.
That must not be the party you are a member of or that you vote for.
Because I would.
You want witness?
No, I want to. Ich spreche mal auf Deutsch, er ist gerade weg.
For our English listeners, please fast forward 5 minutes and you'll get back to the English content.
Ich würde einfach nur mal gern zuschauen, ohne dass ich so einen Schein brauche.
So then he said he want to just observe a voting without having a special document.
Okay.
Well, you could ask to do that, but the official reaction, at least in Vienna, would be that they refuse that. That they say no, to sit here on this table, so on the witnessing, you have to need a document from a registered political party that they officially sent you. I think this is a bit of security mechanism that not any kind of hooligan can go in and intimidate the contest.
Okay, yes.
Because, well...
You mean I'm a hooligan?
No, that not. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you actually have to be Austrian, or do you have to be Viennese to do that?
No, I think the witness you only need to have an identity card, and you have this card that one of the parties wanted you to be the witness for them.
And is it hard to get a spot there, or is it just?
No, it's extremely simply because all the.
Are they
too few manpower?
Okay, so there's always looking for people.
They're always looking for, especially if you. And one of the benefits, just to say an example, the last elections I was coming very late to the election, and then helped at the counting. But this time I had only time in. I had the workshop with Derek, so I was only there for some hours before noon, and just sit there and helped. Yes, helped. Well, I basically just sit there and smile to the people and explain them, come here, yes, and wait a bit, and we have much to do. And the fun thing is, where I profit enormous, I met one guy who was a former work colleague of mine, and I've seen him at Game City 1 weekend before, and then I said, what? You actually we're neighbors now. You reside in my area, two houses away. And he said yes, since 2 years. And none of us, even if we have seen us several times, none of us had the idea to check that some of us had changed the location and we are now neighbors. And this alone is very valuable. And to meet neighbors and other people who you don't see very often. That's fun. And that everyone was thinking that I'm now somehow connected to the city government because I was sitting at the table. Everyone was very uttermost respectful.
Official Horst business.
Official Horst business. And everyone was coming to me first and not to the official clerk because I was more friendly. Kiss my ring. Yeah, you're allowed to vote. Next year I will say, no. Go back.
Well, especially if you recognize that woman, you'll be like,
no.
You shouldn't vote.
No, you should not vote. Yeah. You should.
You won't vote.
Yeah. Well, that's all. Yeah, just go register yourself for voting business. It's not big fun. Well, the biggest fun was, beside me was an old man, actually not a priest, but how you say, a volunteer, not monk, but a volunteer Catholic pseudo-priest, how you call them, and Leimbruder. Who is in a Catholic organization?
like a deacon or something.
A deacon, yeah.
A rookie brother.
Something. And he gifted me a little Maria statuette or so, and a sweet. Okay. Yeah. And next to him was an old lady, and she brought a box, a plastic box with, it was mushroom-shaped chocolate chocolate cookies or something. Yes? So little mushrooms, but made out of chocolate. And she could not get that open. It was a plastic container, and then she was an old lady, so she tried, and then she said, I could not get it open. Well, and the other people were busy with their lists and checking the lists, and finally, she tried it and it made rutsch, and all these mushrooms were flying around. And then we collecting these mushrooms. So well, if you're easy to entertain, it's enough fun there. Yeah, yeah, that's all my voting witness adventures.
Yeah.
We out of topics? Thomas?
Any more Scratch topics? There's the recording that's coming up, Robo Wunderkind.
Robo Wunderkind, yes.
Yeah.
That's what you hear now, if we have nothing more to say.
Later.
Thanks. We interviewed Miss Anna from Robo Wunderkind.
Yeah.
This is a startup who make a very cool robot for 5-year-old children, and the robot you can program by visual programming.
It's a whole kit. So it comes with all different parts and sensors, and even a 5 or 6-year-old can put it together and program it in different ways. And what I like about it is that it's progressive. So it starts with a very simple, colorful programming language app on a tablet, and then they can gradually start using Scratch, and then eventually the plan is they can even do full-blown Python coding for these robots and build basic machines and things like that.
And the robot is made out of little cubes that you can put together as you see fit. So enjoy the interview. It's linked, and we'll also link to the Kickstarter page.
It's a Vienna-based company.
And the Kickstarter is still open, right? It's still running?
Yeah.
Will it be running when this podcast is published?
I think
The
it runs
podcast
until
will
the
be published
30th
tomorrow.
of October.
So if we manage to publish that, or if Horst managed,
Okay. I know what I have to do today. Okay.
I would have a small topic.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So before the podcast, we talked a bit about like how important it is to get immediate feedback and how the time between programming something, actually seeing the result affects the way you work. How do you think about what's the state of the art, especially in Scratch, about how you can make that period between programming something and seeing the result as small as possible? And are there still ways to improve that even more from the state of the art?
Instant gratification.
Yeah, I think there's tons of room to improve it, but what's so incredible is to see a child take a program, run it, whether it's a game or an animation, and be changing aspects of the program and automatically see it happening. So in a program like Scratch where you can't really, it's very hard to crash. There are no, bugs aren't really, because it's blocks. But it really makes it easy for children to understand by making a change and seeing instantaneous results. And you can even test out blocks before you've added them to a script, which is a pretty powerful thing, being able to click a block or a section of a block. So when I was young, we couldn't run a section of a program, but in Scratch you can divide your program into all these pieces and just click on part of it and it automatically runs, which is pretty cool.
Can you actually do stuff like reverse debugging or like do reverse? Or do you think that would be helpful for the kids?
Yeah, I think it would. And a lot of people are arguing that Scratch has removed some of what's useful in debugging. So people are looking at ways to introduce more debugging in future versions. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for the input right now, Scratch is mostly dragging stuff, maybe text input as well?
Yeah, dragging, and then you can change, you can type in text or numeric values inside blocks.
Yeah. So do you think there's any, would it be easier to somehow input these not via the keyboard or via the mouse, but some different? Would that still be some advantage, or would it just be...
Yeah, well right now I know people at MIT that have created, they call it type blocking. So it means instead of dragging each block, when you're doing a lot of programming in Scratch or any block-based programming, the bottleneck is you have to go to each individual category to get to where the blocks are, which is a big disadvantage over typing code. So someone thought, well, what if we could type and the blocks would just appear?
So like a text filter or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. And so you would type if, and an if block would pop up, and you could tab into the next field and type greater than, and so and then you can very quickly do it, and it gets back to this idea of GP, where in GP you can be typing or dragging whichever is more convenient for what you're doing, and maybe you start off at a really rudimentary dragging blocks together, and then gradually getting more and more confident until it's kind of pure code. But there are also big advantages to block-based programming when you are troubleshooting as a teacher. You can really see very quickly how things work with color and shape and position.
Yeah. And I guess for that it's also important to input values not just by text but also by, I mean, that's something that I experience when I do some graphics programming. You just enter some value like it's 0.2 or something, if it's something between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
And then you try it and you figure out, okay, it should be a bit more. And then you go with, especially if it's compiled language, you gotta go with 0.3. But that's too much. So you kind of, and if you should just have some way of just having a slider or something,
well,
or
it's funny you say that. I was about to say Scratch does, when you create a variable, by default it displays on the stage. If you double click that display, it goes to a slider. So you could just double click on a variable at any time that's being displayed and adjust it all in real time, get it just to the right value, and then set that value in your block. Yep. And then you double click it a third time and it goes back to being just a display box. Or there's a checkbox to hide and show variables. So it works pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's very important, especially for graphics programming and stuff like that, where you know that it ends up, or you don't know that it ends up at 0.23784 or something like that. But visually, or just looking at that, you can kind of easily tweak it. Just seeing the result and then getting that instant feedback.
Yeah, and for animation, it's really helpful when you're working out timing, and also because kids can compose music with Scratch. They can try out different values for the tempo, and you could even use a variable to adjust all those tempos or all those notes and do it with one slider. It's pretty cool.
What does it use for creating the music or for synthesizing the music?
It's using, Flash has a built-in MIDI set that's fairly limited, and that's one thing. Scratch 1.4 has somewhat more sophisticated music making capabilities than 2.0 because of the limitations of Flash.
So Scratch 2 just like puts all the MIDI commands to the system, and the system does whatever MIDI renderer you have?
No, it's not true MIDI. So you can't use, if you have a sound card with its own MIDI sound library, you can't use that with Scratch. It's totally self-contained. Music is sort of a blind spot. It's not a high priority for most of the people at MIT, but there are a few really passionate people that have worked on Scratch. And typically, if you get to know them, you can try out their version of Scratch where they have tons of music synthesis. And now, as of August, if you go to Scratch X, so it's just scratchx.org, there's a parallel version of Scratch with all these third-party extensions that you can try out. So you can use different controllers like Elite Motion Controller to let you do 3D motion control. And a friend of mine has developed a full-blown synthesizer plugin where you can really do like we did on the Commodore 64 with attack, decay, sustain, and release, and you can create your own sounds and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And it's anybody can develop their own Scratch extensions just using JavaScript.
For the 2.0 version, or
for the 2.0 version.
For the 1.0 version is also, or for 1.x?
It didn't have an extension. It didn't have an open architecture for extensions.
So you have to write in Smalltalk or somehow make Smalltalk interact with.
Or what most people will do is, because Snap is a parallel version that is open source, you can modify Snap any way that you want. So, for instance, Turtlestitch, that our friend Andrea works with here in Vienna, they took Snap and modified it to work with these embroidery machines.
Yeah, cool. So maybe somebody, maybe Horst can program a new intro sound for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm no sound guy, but if you look at Scratch IMS 2015, at the website of the conference, Scratch IMS conference in Amsterdam, there was a talk about extending Scratch. It was from an Italian guy, and he made it very clear how to extend Scratch with your own things, and it's also language agnostic, so you can do it in Python or whatever language you want, because basically, it's, if I remember correctly, it's XML files.
Huh.
Maybe I confuse, my memory is not so exact, but it will be linked in the show notes.
Well, people were really excited about being able to incorporate real-time data from the web in your Scratch projects, and using things like the voice, text-to-voice, any kind of web APIs.
There are web APIs for MIDI too.
Yeah.
I tried to use it 2 years ago, and it didn't work. And then I wrote a process and used WebSockets to communicate the browser with old synthesizer from the 80s, and a controller, so a keyboard, and I developed a game. This is more complicated than a keyboard and a synthesizer, but these were important parts of the game. And it's not possible to play it in the internet because you need this small server. And some days ago I read that web MIDI is possible to use in Chrome. So this is very fun.
So it actually interfaces with any MIDI devices, be it USB or whatever you have there on your local device.
Any MIDI device, and this is a good thing. I will try to rewrite the library I used to communicate with the devices to use web MIDI. And for music, I know another language, PD, Pure Data. This is especially for music and sounds. It's based on blocks too, but there are connections between the blocks, and it's not so easy like Scratch, but for music it's better.
Yeah, I've read a bit about it too.
Yeah,
it uses
PT.
like wires, like nodes. Yeah.
Which is really intuitive access to this kind of thing of music, because you have these blocks like machines, and you can draw the lines, and so you have an effect machine, and you have a sound machine, and you connect it. I never used PT, but I used a similar program named Bus Machines, and it was very interesting, and you can accomplish really fast something good with these programs. But you have to work into it, because in the machines you have to type in.
It's easy to program a synthesizer, but it's really hard to program a counter. That's a little complicated, but it's possible.
So for doing arpeggios and stuff.
I programmed some patches, and then I saw that for a counter you can use messages. It's a little bit easier, and it's better for music, but not so easy for children.
And with Scratch, one of the big limitations is that you can't. It's not easy to turn sounds on and off in a quick way. So it means you're really just playing. It's almost more like samples versus doing true MIDI or synthesis. So I want to try that now. I want to try it right now. Have my laptop in my bag.
I'm out of topics.
Tamina?
Look on the show notes.
Ich habe noch ein deutsches Thema.
Yes, I will translate.
Yeah. I don't know if it's interesting for not German-speaking persons, because I talk about he's back. Er ist wieder da.
Ist so Film.
It's a movie. Also es handelt sich dabei um einen Film über Hitler, Adolf Hitler.
Dennis talks about a film called He's Back about Adolf Hitler.
Und Adolf Hitler wacht ganz plötzlich 2014 in Berlin in einem Wohngebiet auf.
The story is that Adolf Hitler somehow awakens 2014 in Berlin.
Und er wird dabei entdeckt von jemandem, der findet, dass er so ein ganz guter Darsteller eines Hitler-Parodisten ist.
He is discovered by an agent who thinks this guy is cool to play an Hitler double. Derek is vomiting. Sorry. Okay, laughing. Okay.
Und jeder denkt, dass er eigentlich nur ein Comedian ist und er tritt sogar im Fernsehen auf.
So and this Hitler makes a career as a Hitler double in TV and get popular, and everyone's thinking he's just a Hitler imitation guy, so an actor.
Und dieser Film ist eine Mischung aus Dokumentation, Mockumentary und Komödie.
It's a mix of documentary and comedy.
Das ist besonders lustig, weil bestimmte Dinge sind nicht gestellt, sondern wirklich aufgezeichnet worden mit echten Menschen, die auf ihn reagieren.
And some of those film snippets are real life interaction of a non-aware audience with this actor. So it's a documentary how people react to such an actor.
You should have watched that one instead of The Martian.
Yeah. I could have followed this one.
Und jetzt, um Horst zu ärgern, kommt ein Wort, das er nicht ins Englische übersetzen kann. Donaudampfschiff, Agenturskapitänskajüten, Fensterscheibensprung.
And now Dennis is challenging me with my translation skills, but I can do it. He was referring a long German word, which in English does not exist because you cannot glue together words, so I must made a sentence out of it. But he was talking about a ship on the Danube who had a window, and the window had a break. The window was broken.
Du hast die Agentur vergessen.
And there was some agency.
Window breaking agency on the Danube.
Yes, something like that.
Window breaking agency?
Okay, but then it's about the film.
Okay.
Back to the movie.
Back to the movie. Ja, so gibt es Szenen, in denen Leute mit diesem vermeintlichen Adolf Hitler Selfies machen, inklusive Hitlergruß.
Oh God, and in this film people make with this believed to be fake Hitler, make selfies and showing the Hitler greeting with the right arm out. Oh God.
That was the only part I understood, by the way,
Yeah.
what you said. Hitler selfies.
Yeah. For non-German speaking audience, actually showing a Hitler greeting out of context, also in the street, not in a theater performance or something.
No, it's is
illegal.
Yeah.
Yep. You can get fined for that.
In Österreich heißt
In
es
Austria.
Wiederbetätigung.
Ja, ja.
In Deutschland ist es nicht ganz so tragisch wie in Österreich, weil das fällt zwar unter Wiederbetätigung, aber da es sozusagen nicht ernst gemeint ist, ist es okay.
In a satiric way, it's...
Yeah, so he say in Austria the laws are even harsher than in German for doing that. And you have already seen that film? Or?
Yeah,
and you liked
yesterday.
the film? You liked it? It was in the cinema?
Yes, it's
okay.
Also der Film ist wirklich grandios, super gespielt und sehr empfehlenswert.
Dennis really digs this film.
And there really is a parallel to The Martian because this film...
Hitler is dubbed It's the same actor that dubbed Matt Damon.
No. But before this film, this is based always on a very popular novel that was written a few years ago and was very well accepted by the audience.
Interesting.
it's really funny and it's really good acted by the actors and the other people.
And you think it would
the dog.
appeal to a non-German audience also? The film would also be interesting for a non-German audience if it's dubbed
German
dubbed.
humor?
Or you have to know Germany and the situation to really get the fun out of
I
it.
think it's possible that English people can genießen, enjoy the movie because it's a little bit, but only a little bit like Sacha Baron Cohen.
Ghost
okay.
Ghost knees.
Goes.
No. Don't listen to Thomas.
It also makes me think, what was the one that just caused a stir last December with
Robert?
no, the one where they go to North Korea.
Okay. So.
There's also the one like in the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
I know. Which I didn't see. I didn't see any of those, but apparently that's there are lots of movies that talk about that kind of topic these days.
Yeah.
But you will never see this movie in America because they would reproduce it. So they have
I think the title.
they avoid the dubbing.
Osama bin Laden.
So do you actually like those movies, like German movies, if they actually are exported there? Do you just subtitle it?
You
or-
told us that
Yes.
all in the last podcast we already talked
Yeah,
about
they
this,
would
that
only be
all dubbed.
subtitled. It almost never. I've never seen a German film dubbed, and almost never would a German film be in a movie theater. So only it would have to be like.
Student festival or something.
Yeah, well, it needs to be. There are only 2 or 3 directors that it would be like Wim Wenders. Particularly his documentaries. Documentaries will make it into the U.S., but not so much dramatic films. And Werner Herzog, like that kind of stuff will.
Yeah.
So it's just those sort of celebrity foreign directors, but very rare. And there's only a few directors in each country. Same with France. Only a few directors, like Leos Carax maybe would be in. Like Holy Rollers was the last film of his that made it mainstream in the U.S., but they make no money, and they'd only be in a major city. So if you don't live in New York, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, you never even hear of these films. Like, yeah.
Which is so sad because in past times there was a really vital cooperation between Europe film and America film. There were American actors here, European actors. I remind Romy Schneider, who acted on very many films, but better the Donald Sutherland, who filmed with Federico Fellini, and so on. And this fantastic movies.
Yeah, and Nicholson and Antonioni and the directors would also go back and forth. They could do English language and then go back to their native language, and we don't really have that now.
Yeah, this is very. It should be supported.
And we should, I think we might have mentioned it last time, or maybe it was after the podcast, but obviously you should watch Hercules in New York, where they actually dubbed Arnold Schwarzenegger into English.
Oh, Schwarzenegger.
Because his English wasn't so good back then.
So, at least here you can buy a DVD where you get 3 audio tracks, one where he has his original English language, which kind of sounds fun. Then he dubbed in English, and everything dubbed into German.
So they even don't let him speak his own German voice.
No.
I'm not sure. Do they dub him? In German?
The early movies were dubbed, not dubbed, but
He speaks his German.
but the current, it's impossible. Nobody can understand him in German.
And did they do it in the beginning?
And
Did he dub himself in the beginning?
I remember that Hercules was dubbed, not dubbed in English and not dubbed in German. So it's dubbed by himself.
Okay.
But it's low budget movies. So
I didn't know that he did a Hercules because Lou Ferrigno is also in a famous low budget Hercules film, and of course they're both were together in what was the documentary that kind of launched both of their careers. Like, I can't remember what it was now, but there's a documentary about their bodybuilding competition.
Pumping Iron.
Pumping Iron, yeah.
Classic.
Which is good.
So they could have had dueling Hercules too. Like.
Yeah, like he was
If you're
messing with
into
all the others.
such trashy face of Schwarzenegger, I can also not recommend, but I can say there exists a film named Cactus Jack. It's a western with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kirk Douglas. Yes.
I thought you were
As
going to
is
say
a villain.
I thought you were going to say Kirk Cameron. I would pay to see a western with Kirk Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Growing pains in the Terminator.
So the good and the bad actor.
Yeah.
We're not going to reveal who is the
Which
good
is
and who is the
which?
bad.
Yeah.
In this movie, it's watch it or not.
Out of topics?
Yes. I think. Oh.
Are we already at the high score time-wise?
Absolutely. For our second English podcast, we now
7.5
reached
hours.
1 hour and something in 2 minutes.
Is
And
that
we-
the longest Biertaucher podcast that we had so far?
No. And we still have the
is the
7 minutes of
target.
interview.
If you want to have topics, I have some topics.
Okay, what a wonderful.
Well, enjoy the interview with Anna about Robo Wunderkind.
Yeah.
And if you prefer us in the German language, head over to Biertaucher.at. And if you
Where you get the
enjoy,
dubbing of this podcast.
By Arnold Schwarzenegger.
and if you enjoy us with our strong English accents speaking English, head over to internationalopenmagazine.org, where you will soon find our
Is it
magazine.
actually possible to register such a long domain name?
Yeah, I already did.
CEs like me.
So you also questioned the
I'm
length.
also, I found OpenMag is available, so we'll have a shorter one too.
But now you can.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Horst. 11 October 2015, I'm speaking with Anna from Project Wunderkind.
Robo Wunderkind.
Robo
yes.
Wunderkind. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Horst.
Anna, can you tell me about yourself, about the group of people you are, and what your project is?
Okay, so we are 3 co-founders, and we've been working on this project since 2 years. So we set off on a mission to create a robot which any child can build and program. And we came up with the idea that we want building robots to be as simple as playing with Lego bricks. So what we developed, it's bricks with electronics inside, and by snapping these bricks together, kids build a robot which they can later on program in an app on smartphone or tablets.
And for stamping the bricks together, I don't need wire and glue or something.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
Lego sticks, Lego bricks.
Yeah, so it's just like normal mechanical connection, and yeah, that's something we put a lot of effort into it to eliminate wires, because it's something which scares people a bit, and still you have just simple bricks, but these are really sophisticated elements because they have a lot of electronic components, and it's also Lego compatible, so kids build your robot and then they can actually build on top of it a lot of stuff with Lego bricks
And you have bricks with different functionality, like a camera brick,
yes, exactly.
a motor brick, and so on.
So there are different colors, and each color stands for a certain function. So, for example, red brick, it's ultrasonic sensor. Then we have blue ones, which are motors. Orange one is microcontroller, and it has also microphone and speakers. Then the one with batteries, with Bluetooth module, infrared sensor. Then we actually have, because we have 3 different sets, and the bigger ones have also accelerometer, LED display, temperature sensor, weather sensor, and even digital camera.
And you have shown in your video you have created an app so that you can visual programming for children, these robots that you build with them without a line of code.
Yes. So our programming interface, it's visual, and it even it's basically symbols which stand for actions. this is like the very first level. Then like kids which can become more like confident with coding, they can start doing it in Scratch. So we'll also integrate Scratch with our robot. And then we are actually thinking of giving a possibility to program robot in Python. Yeah, that's that's something we're gonna work on.
This is not done yet.
It's not yet. So now we are on Kickstarter, and we have like our next stretch goal is, so we raised so far 190,000, and our next stretch goal is 300, fingers crossed. So with 300 US dollars, we want to make an open library of 3D printed accessories for robot. So that people can upload their designs or download someone's designs, make something with it, print it at home and 3D printer and use it with a robot.
Do you sell the robot bricks as a set, or can I specifically buy 2 camera modules also?
Yeah, so on Kickstarter we sell them as 3 sets, but of course later on we will be selling additional modules.
Do you know already about the license? Have you an open hardware license or open software license for your code?
So Scratch is open source, and we provide also an API. We will provide an API for people.
Code yourself
like the code, like the visual programming interface is going to be ours.
It's remain closed source.
Yes.
And the design of your bricks themselves, are they patented or?
We patented the connection system. Yes, but like we believe that with this 3D printed accessories, which will be like all open, people will be able to build on top of it.
3D print my own robots.
It's actually it will be.
I
think like you people like who can do that, they would be able to build something, but it won't be. In order for us to make it easy for people to do that, it's going to be quite a lot of effort, because it's like we put in electronics inside the cubes, and everything is quite like sophisticated.
Do you have an official cooperation with Lego, because you say you have Lego compatible bricks?
No, we don't. Like it's what is actually cool. Lego patents expired, so now everybody can use this kind of. So we're not allowed to say we copy Lego. We're just like we are Lego compatible, and that's what we are doing.
What was the inspiration of doing your thing in comparison to the existing systems like the Lego Mindstorm robot? Or there are several robot kits out there.
So we looked at them, and like what we wanted to do, we wanted to create a robot for younger kids, because Lego Mindstorms is a really cool robot, but it's not an easy entry. Like the kids can't just start playing with it. Like they need either a lot of guidance or they need something before. And we wanted a robot which even like a 5-year child could start playing with. To start in with, but of course, like it's because of Scratch, and Scratch is more exciting, and then because we have like 3 different sets which are also like have a lot of functions, we notice that even parents buy it sometimes for themselves, because it's if you have like digital camera in a robot, like you can come up with quite a lot of what you could do with that.
Did you experience how kids or school kids interact with the robots? Did you make some test run with your prototype in schools? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we had already 3 different designs, and like we changed them because we were like testing them with kids and like seeing what works best. So like the design we have now, we believe is really good. Like also we continue testing the integration of app with robot, because it's also something super important, because of course building it's very important part of like the kids build the robot, and then they program a robot they build themselves. So they see how this robot comes to life with coding. But of course, so building has to be very intuitive, but then coding is also a very important part, and this is what we are continuously doing.
And have you experienced how the kids interact with the robot? So they like them from first sight, or they need a teacher to explain them that this is a robot?
Actually, it depends on children, because like there are some children which are very like comfortable with technology, and there are some which need a bit of like help. But our robot is also very colorful, so it's something like actually kids like I kind of like also maybe it's a bit of like Lego association, these colorful bricks, what you should do with them, you snap them together. But it's funny sometimes, like you have to explain them, like to give them some guidance that if you want wheels to be driving, like they have to be parallel and not in some funny combination, but it's also kind of like experimentation, which is like a good learning effect for kids to like which combinations of robots are like viable and which are just like for fun.
Do you know where the bricks will be produced? Will this be in China?
Yeah, they produce in China. So last year we were part of Hardware Accelerator HUX, and we spent almost half a year in Shenzhen, China, working on organizing manufacturing.
Okay. Yeah. So to support you, you would love that people go to your Kickstarter page.
Exactly.
What
So
is the best webpage to visit your project?
So go to startrobo.com. Or just Google Robo Wunderkind on Kickstarter.
Wunderkind is a German name.
So we're...
Isn't that hurting your global marketing?
Not really. Like it's been recognized also in the English-speaking realm. Area, English-speaking countries, and like we liked Wunderkind because it's a combination of like Wunderkind and genius, and we believe that every child is a genius, and also it's like a wonder kid, like a small wonder. So we just liked it, a combination of a genius and a small wonder which is in every child, and we believe that like if we introduce kids at an early age to technology, we give them a lot of possibilities and open a totally new world, and they could do some amazing things with it.
Can you shortly speak how you met the other guys of the project?
So
you said you were all from studying in Vienna or living in Vienna?
So I was living in Vienna, like the guys came to study. I also came to study to Vienna. I was already done with my studies, and like we basically all met at Pioneers Festival, which is like a huge startup event in Vienna. Yeah, and yeah, it's funny that like we're a very international team, but we all met in Vienna. So now that's the place where we are based. Our home base.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.